Hello, I'm Dale Carden, the Senior Advisor at the US-UAE Business Council. I am pleased to introduce a new episode of our latest digital series, The Council Talks COP28. In this series, we speak to representatives of American companies who are championing sustainability and playing a vital role in supporting COP28 in the UAE. In this new episode, we talk to Christopher Raymond, Boeing's Chief Sustainability Officer. Chris gives us a brief look into Boeing's programs that are focused on sustainability, whether internally within its operations or externally in its work with stakeholders, customers, and partners. Chris also talks about the importance of developing more fuel-efficient models in aviation to help achieve the levels of safer emissions we need to achieve globally. He also tells us about what Boeing is doing specifically in the lead up to COP28. Now, over to Chris.
Inside the company, we focus a lot on our own sustainable operations. And what we try to do is run a lot of programs to encourage employee conservation behaviors. First of all, try not to use energy or water or fill up landfills. And then in that regard, we also have been increasing our purchases of renewable electricity wherever we can find it. So I think that is inside of our company. Outside our company and in the industry, we believe there's four basic things that are going to help decarbonize the industry. One is, investing in more efficient, fuel-efficient products. We've done that historically. The second is look for little operational efficiencies. The third is scaling up renewable energy in our industry, and for us, we think that's led by sustainable aviation fuel. And then the fourth one is to be investing in advanced technology demonstrators like our U.S electric airplane or NASA's Sustainable Flight Demonstrator. Most new airplanes have delivered 15 to 25% better fuel efficiency than the models that they replace. And when the Dreamliner came along, it did the same. It's about 25% better than a 767 on CO2 emissions, 50% better on noise. It was a real breakthrough on materials. It really introduced larger use of composites and carbon fiber for lighter weight airplanes with fuel efficient engines. And so the industry's done a good job on that, and that'll be required on any new airplanes. They'll have to provide that step forward again on fuel efficiency. But I think the other thing is the small things, whether it's air traffic management or some of the digital tools that are now available for more efficient flight routing or optimal speed or altitudes. These are all things that shave a little bit of fuel use off of the airline's operations, and that's worth a lot when it comes to carbon emissions. From our standpoint, the way we think we play in that is do the work to know what has to change on an airplane if we were using it 100% of the time. We call that the 100% SAF compatible airplane. We have a large research program going on how an airplane may have to change with those different fuel chemistries in the future. The second thing is we use some jet fuel ourselves, not nearly as much as an airline, but we should be a buyer of jet fuel so that we can convert our own use to more sustainable aviation fuel, and we're doing that. And then the third one is we invested in a climate impact model so we could help engage policymakers. And I think that is a very important role for our industry to play, is how do we work with governments, the financial industry, and the energy industry, to solve the constraints that exist right now to scaling up more production and use of these fuels. And we spend a lot of our time on that. So those three areas for us. The value of that program is really to focus on things that will improve safety or efficiency, therefore sustainability. And we've been doing that for about 10 years. The Eco Explorer is the newest edition, and that program was really created to leverage what we've learned on Eco Demonstrator, but be able to work with individual airlines on a more specific thing. Like in the case of this first Eco Explorer program, we'll work on air navigation and looking at how optimal air navigation can improve fuel efficiency and therefore lower carbon emissions. So it's a critical program that we've invested in for a long time, and it really draws a lot of partnerships with our suppliers, customers, government agencies, and academia on how we can improve safety or efficiency. We believe that these four sectors of aviation and energy, capital providers, and policymakers, it's really critical to work together on that. And a lot of the sustainable aviation fuel transactions that go on in the world today go on in the state of California here in the United States. And we think that's because they've put a policy framework in place dating back to renewable diesel that has made it attractive in terms of the credits you can get for using this fuel, or at least buying it and putting it at Los Angeles Airport, for example. So where we've seen it work, it's been a combination of the production capability and the policies. And so we think it's very important to incentivize more production. For us, those partnerships have been all about efficiency. Really, if you go back to the establishment of the research center, that was really aimed at the early use and study of sustainable aviation fuels. I think we'll continue to look at roadmaps for how do we grow bigger sustainable aviation fuel industries in those countries. We've done flights with both Emirates and Etihad on sustainable aviation fuel, or the perfect flight in the case of Etihad, where they also looked at things in their interiors and even down to the kind of silverware they used or the kind of containers they used to serve food on that flight. So they were experimenting in a lot of areas around sustainability. So I think these kind of partnerships are critical. We'll learn what will improve operational efficiency. We'll learn how to solve the green premium on some of the prices for these things. And those are critical. And going forward, I think, particularly with COP28 occurring in the UAE this year, it's really a great way to showcase the intersections between energy, policy, and aviation in a place that's so aviation enriched in the UAE. The UAE's role in hosting it, I think, is critical. As we've discussed, we see these four sectors of capital, policy, aviation, and energy being critical to helping to decarbonize aviation, principally through the scale up of sustainable aviation fuels. And there will be a lot of innovation in sustainable aviation fuels, ranging from which feedstocks are we going to use to make it, how much renewable electricity is used in that process, how much green hydrogen can be used in that process. So the UAE is, in my view, sort of perfectly situated in those four sectors to bring those conversations together. And I would hope, as it relates to aviation, COP28 would help advance this idea of policy and what policies will really help deconflict the flow of capital to help those things scale up around the world. That's what we're hoping for. In terms of our role, because of those partnerships we mentioned, we were honored to be asked if we would second one of our employees into the COP28 planning team for aviation, and we've done that. We've also made available our climate impact model that we call Cascade. We wanted to release it publicly ahead of COP28, so if that was useful there for conducting demos or referencing, how can we look at these scenarios to decarbonize aviation? And then, as you mentioned, just continuing to promote and deepen the partnerships with people like Emirates and Etihad and Fly Dubai. Those will all be important things as we approach COP28.